Alrighty, well, welcome to my exhibition of learning for second trimester as obvious by this lovely PowerPoint. So I want to start out today by giving you an introduction, just a little bit about this last trimester and the growth that has taken place in this last trimester, and my quote for this time around. So here, my quote is, being happy doesn't mean everything is perfect, it means that you've decided to look beyond imperfections. And that kind of speaks to my learning for this trimester and just kind of looking beyond the, kind of the rough spots that have been going on in my learning this last trimester. So just kind of looking beyond that, and that's what I've really been focusing on, to say the least, especially in the personal qualities section. So, not going to talk about when I got here because I've been here for a while. So, but it's been quite a trimester of growth. It's been a pretty, I wouldn't say hectic, but a little bit unpredictable and a very, very busy last couple of months. So with that, we can go ahead and get into what I've been doing. So, autobiography. My autobiography is 22 pages. I've decided my biggest troubles with autobiography, it's definitely been a strength in my learning, but it's also a struggle at the same time because I'm not a very good storyteller. I'm very much write a very professional analytical essay, and that's not really my strong suit. So my goal for this next trimester is to try and improve my storytelling abilities, take advice from Sarah, get peer editing done, and just improve my overall skills so I can have a finished, polished autobiography this next trimester and meet my expectations and actually have it be good quality work, because right now I'm not very confident in what I have. It's there, it's something to start out with, it's something to work with, but it's definitely something that could use a lot of improvement at this point. So I'll show you an excerpt that I have been working on, and I put some notes in the side that it gives you a little bit of idea of what the whole thing's overall looks like. So this is a section about my past relationships, and I'll read you the first paragraph, and then just kind of let you do with it what you will. But the previous relationship had left me damaged. It was an abusive, toxic relationship, and I left it thinking that no one would ever love me ever again. So when I finally figured out that Alexi actually liked me, I was at a loss. My feeling of never being able to be loved again was still there and holding strong, and the idea of having to try again with someone new was insane. The problem was I had fallen in love so hard and fast. The kindness he exhibits, the beauty he sees in everyone, it made my heart ache. And see, as I noted on the side, this section contains feeling, but it lacks telling a story. It lacks telling, of the event of that happening, and it's the same down here. This describes an event that happened, last year, and it just kind of says what it is. It doesn't really show you what it is. So those are probably my two biggest goals for this next trimester, is to try and improve my storytelling ability and showing, not telling, with description, using descriptive details, all of those things that we have in our, we did a workshop on it, and all of those techniques that we used, that we did that workshop around, and that's just my biggest goal with my writing. So yeah, that is the biggest piece of my communication with learning. I kind of did with my exhibition this time, I did kind of a combined communication and what I've done learning, because I like both formats. So that's the biggest piece in that section. So with that, we will move on to social reasoning and Vanessa Behan and Youth Leadership Spokane. So social reasoning isn't something that I've been doing a ton in school. I did it a lot last year. I did a lot of looking into the Constitution seminar that we did last year, looking into different issues, CWA. That was a huge part of my learning last year and something I was very focused on. And this year, I just haven't really found much of an interest for it during school. But, I've had opportunities outside of school that, loosely pertain to school. At the end of last year, Cindy asked me if I wanted to be a part of this organization called Youth Leadership Spokane, and I would be silly not to pass that down. So that was definitely one of the biggest areas that has been a social reasoning growth. And what we've been doing is we've been doing once a month We go to a different location in Spokane. This last month we went down to KHQ and we did a seminar on how to communicate effectively, how to present ourselves in front of a group, what to look for when we're communicating with people. And this is the service project that we're doing with that. Every month we go and do that, and this is we have a small group that we work together with. My group has actually shrunk. We're probably down to about 4 kids. So we're going to go to Vanessa Behan, and it's an organization that provides families with childcare in their times of need. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and do a craft, like a little craft day with the little kids, and then we're going to go a second time and provide needs for the organization. Those needs being such as washing windows or taking out the garbage or making sure that the toys are sterilized. Those are things you don't necessarily really think of when you think of Vanessa Behan, but there's still things that need to get done. And that's our biggest goal with Vanessa Behan, is to just provide them with what they need. So it's been a bit of a stretch because the communication there hasn't been very good with my group members. I was supposed to have a background check this last Saturday, and no one communicated to me that, you know, they're only going to be there for a certain 2 hours. So I didn't get the background check because my group leader didn't communicate that to me. So it's been a bit of a struggle, but my goals for that is just to, you know, go with the flow, but still keep in good contact. We have a Facebook group and utilize that. Definitely use that to my best of my ability, because if we communicate well, I think we can get this done, and I think we can do great with our service learning. And it's definitely something that I really enjoyed going every week. Another example of one of the workshops we've been doing is we went and we heard the police chief speak, we heard Ozzy Kadezovich speak, we heard the fire chief speak about public safety, and that kind of opened my eyes, because you know, people don't come to our town if it's not safe. You don't go to a town that you know that isn't safe, and you're going to get, you know, mugged if you turn around the corner. And that was a huge piece of that learning. So it's been quite an experience, and I hope to graduate this program and be eligible for all the scholarships that it offers. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. That's about it. So, Alex. So this has been a bit of a stretch for me. I've never really enjoyed doing Alex math. It's quite it's not easy math. It's a lot more difficult than it usually is. I have done a lot more this semester though. I started out the semester, I took a huge hit on my items at the beginning of the semester, and I was bumped down to, I believe, 107, 112 area is where I was. Now I'm at 180 out of 417 topics, which has actually grown since the beginning of the trimester. I was originally at 390 something, 380 something, like for the total amount of pie items, and now it's 417. So I'm like, oh, I'm overjoyed that I have to do that much Alex math. But I definitely pushed myself to actually just spend more time. And one thing that came up to me is a different way of taking notes with Alex, and I actually highly recommend it. My friend Emily showed me how to do notes on a whiteboard and just take down the actual concepts in your journal and then do the problems on the whiteboard, and that's helped me a lot. Because I don't have to write everything down, I don't have to take time to go back and erase or cross stuff out. It works a lot better, it's less time consuming, and you still get the knowledge that you need. So my goals for that is just to continue that note-taking process, because without it, I wouldn't be at 188 items. It may not seem much to me, but I am like, woohoo! You know, I haven't done that much Alex since the entire time I've been here. So, but the other problem that I have with Alex is that I get easily distracted when I'm on Alex. If there's a lot of noise in the classroom, I don't do as well with pretty much anything, but Alex especially for some reason. So I always have headphones on. Always. I don't not have headphones on because it kind of puts me into my own little zone, and I get a lot of work done. There's also drawbacks to that. It's harder to get my attention when I have my headphones on, and oftentimes my classmates think that I'm off in my own little zone, so I'm not available to talk to, and they don't want to come up to me and like poke me and ask me questions. And I think another goal for me for that is to just balance that out with what I'm doing, with what I'm learning, and try and just focus, even though it is noisy in the classroom. It's, you know, generally our classroom's okay, but from time to time it does get loud because, you know, we're a bunch of girls and like 3 boys that show up sometimes. So it's it's quite a challenge, but I've actually come to enjoy Alex more since I found that new note-taking strategy, and I don't feel absolutely hopeless in my Alex learning, so. Yep. Do you guys have any questions? You feel free to continue to ask if you have any.
Do you have a goal to finish your pilot?
I don't think I'm going to be able to do it this year because it's 417 items. I think my goal for the end of the year is to get to about 250, 300 in that range, and then see where I'm at and see if that's enough to move on. I'm not entirely sure because the standard hasn't really been set for that, and that's something I definitely need to communicate with the math specialists in the building to decide where to go from there. So, all right.
Awesome.
Yep. Chrissy?
For the whiteboard, like, do you use like the white?
I have a little whiteboard.
Oh,
like
okay,
a little
I was
mini
thinking,
whiteboard.
could you
Yeah.
take it home? That's cool.
Oh yeah, I have a small whiteboard with my own whiteboard marker. Yeah, I wouldn't use the big whiteboard. That would be a little obnoxious. So.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Good?
With your Alex, it says in here that you completed about 92 topics this trimester. That's averaging just around 2 per day. So did you have any previous goals on how much you were trying to complete? And I know that you've improved.
2 to 3 per day was my goal because they're
2 to
harder
3?
items. Yeah, 2 to 3 per day was my goal.
So then, is that are you going to maintain that goal for the next trimester?
I'm probably going to bump it up to 3 per day no matter what. If I don't get 3 per day done, then I will take it home. I have a harder time doing it at home just because I get really distracted at home. So, and that's no fault of my family or anything like that. It's just the way it is because, you know, it's not school. It's not the environment that I tend to do better in when it comes to learning. So that's my bigger goal is to get at least 3 items a day done, especially. So, yeah. Okay. So, we're gonna talk about robotics now. Originally, I was a little bit at a loss because the empirical reasoning thing came up, and I was like, no, I don't like science. I don't really know what to put here. But then Wilson reminded me, like, oh, robotics. Yeah, that thing. But I've been, you know, living the last 6 weeks and surviving the last 6 weeks. This is a rough draft of what the electrical system on the robot is supposed to look like. It's pretty ghetto. You probably can't see it very well because the actual paper itself is pretty tiny. So I had to photocopy it with another piece of paper and it still came out pretty tiny. So, but that has been quite a time. I've been doing robotics for a little over a year now, and this last 6 weeks it's been stressful just because we've been kind of on a time crunch. There hasn't been a ton of, everyone hasn't been doing like a ton of work. Like it's just been 4 or 5 kids doing a lot of work, and then the adults, to their credit, and without the adults we wouldn't have a robot, so I want to make that known. Without Chadwick and Leonard we wouldn't be where we are today, so it's been quite an experience. The challenge this year for our robot, in case you guys don't already know, is that our robot has to be able to shoot frisbees into goals that are a certain height above the ground into about 1 foot by like 1.5 feet, 2 feet, just goal like that. That's what it's supposed to look like. So it has to be able to do that and then climb a pyramid. And no big deal. But it's been quite a challenge because in my opinion, this year robotics has been 10 times more stressful and 10 times harder than it was last year. But it's been, I would say, 10 times more rewarding. I got to learn a lot of new skills this year. This year I got to work on the electrical team and learn how to wire the robot. And oh wow, there were times where I wanted to pull my hair out, but I would be confident next year to be able to wire that robot by myself. I could do it by myself and I could do it well and not fry anything. So this is the layout. It didn't turn out exactly like this, but it's pretty close to what it turned out as. We have 3 motors that control what the robot does down here on the actual thing. We have the power board that's like, you know, where everything goes in to get its power from right here. We have 3 more motors up here, and then this is the base of the robot, 2 motors down here, and then the Stereo which is the control board basically, is on the back of this plank that's on the robot. And here is a picture of what it's supposed to look like. And you know,
There's the antenna.
you know my hair is awesome. I did this for like 12 hours. So I just kind of gave up after a while and like just get it out of my face. And yep, this is our grabber. This is what we were using to grab onto the bars of the pyramid. We're using this to tip out and stabilize. This is our shooter, and it was like the fabulous 3 plus 1 that was there for like half a day. So we worked on that for quite an amount of time. And all the electronics I was talking about are on the back of this board right here. So that's what that looks like. I really want to continue on with the competition and just do our best, lead, and be ready for whatever, you know, that competition has in store. I know that last year we got pretty lucky with what we were doing. We were very blessed with our competition last year, and this year it's going to be pretty intense because it's a new competition again, and there are teams that we haven't seen before, there are teams we have seen before that are going. There's another Jagbot team apparently, which I was pretty upset about. So, but yeah, that's what a robot looks like, and that's what I've been doing for the last 6 weeks. Yeah, true.
I heard you say that you worked specifically on rewiring. Was there a specific job that you did? Did you, what?
Nothing specific. The way it works is that we have 3 big components. We have jag motors that put power into everything. They don't really necessarily control everything, but you have to hook up 4 wires to that and a control wire to that, and then you have to hook that into the breaker board, which is just basically like this blue board with each, like an input and output into it, and then plug in the fuses, and it's just cutting wires, stripping wire, plugging that in, make sure it's the right gauge of wire, you have the right amps.
So this is the team that pretty much built it.
Pretty much. There was
wondering.
only 2 of us doing the electrical, so we were originally at 3, and then that member left the robotics team, so it just came down to 2. So got that. We originally laid it out on the table. We built everything out on the table, like the inner workings, everything, the wires, the control wires, the router, the camera. It was all on a table like this. And then it came time, you know, we were kind of just waiting around, and then it came time to put it on the robot, and we spent 12 hours putting it on the robot. So it took quite a bit of time. Emily?
What do you think was so much harder this year than last year? Other than the amount of people.
I think we were kind of expected to step up this year. Like, we were expected to step up and be effective leaders and do a lot of work, and we did a lot of work last year, but especially there was probably about 4 or 5 kids that were expected to step up and be leaders of the team and kind of show where the younger kids where we're going with this. And I think that was a bit of a challenge just because it was just kind of a shock. I didn't really know what that entailed until, you know, probably about halfway in, I really realized what that meant. But it was a challenge, and everyone was stressed out. Everyone was stressed out at each other's throats. It was. Yeah, that's probably the 2 biggest things.
Do you work well with a group?
It's a bunch of guys. I mean, there's like, most of our girls are on the marketing, web design, that team specifically that work with Christy George, and they aren't like centrally located with us. Those girls are down with Christy George, and then we're up in the robotics lab. So I think I work pretty well with the team. I've never really had a ton of issues with anybody, so Lexi.
What personal qualities did you kind of touch through this, and what's your plan for like the rest of the year?
With robotics?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, personal qualities wise, patience was the biggest thing. Having patience with everyone, and just patience with waiting your turn, waiting for when it's actually time to do your stuff, but still keeping yourself busy in the process. Those are probably the biggest things that I had to focus on during the personal qualities. Yeah. So, and my future plans with that is to continue with those personal qualities, because they're definitely going to come into play for the remainder of the season, especially during the competition, because we're going to be away. We're going to be in Ellensburg, and I think that's going to be a whole new challenge within itself, because we're not going to have a huge support network at Ellensburg. Like, not everyone can come over to Ellensburg and watch us compete. So that's probably going to be my biggest thing. But I definitely want to continue with what we're doing currently, is just trying to brainstorm of what we're going to do. This grabber doesn't work. Like, we can't lift up the robots, just kind of brainstorm what we're going to do there and build it and figure out how we're going to wire it, if we need to put certain switches on it or not. And just be an effective leader when we go to competition, and keep the little kids in line. So, yeah, that's where I'm going with that. So that's pretty much the bulk of my robotics. I'm doing a project on robotics where basically me and another team member are building a manual of how to wire the robot for students that in the future that come into this program don't know how to wire something. They will know how to wire something because they'll look at our manual and they'll know how to do it, and they won't be completely lost because they have no knowledge. So that's just kind of our project right now. There are several project proposal drafts that have been done with that. There's been like 4 or 5 drafts, and then there's just the start of the project's actually in my binder. If any of you want to look at it, you can pass it around. But that's basically the bulk of my project work also is going into that. It's going into my LTI project, which I will go into in 2 sections or so. And that robotics project and being an effective leader with robotics. So, Shattuck.
So I have a question. You mentioned creating this manual for future robotics teams to be able to use, and then also kind of pointed out that we emerged with 3 or 4 leaders this year that kind of did the bulk of the work. Those 2 things tie together in how we get those younger students, freshmen especially. We had a lot of freshmen turn out for the team. How do we get them involved? And I guess my question for you as a leader on the team is, how do you anticipate getting those younger students on our team, not just the ones you're going to reach on the internet if you create this manual, but the younger students on our team learning these things that you guys are doing? Because I saw them a lot of the time standing on the sidelines, kind of twiddling their thumbs, wondering what to do. That was kind of
I think a lot of that has to do with guidance and just kind of, I think, inclusion, like asking if they want to come in on a project, if they want to learn something new. I think it's a lot of guidance and a lot of showing by example. Like, you can do this too, just, ask us if you want to be a part of it. Definitely take the initiative. I think that there are some members of the team that aren't as motivated, to put it lightly, aren't as motivated and aren't as into it, which is totally understandable. It's not everybody's bag. Not anybody can be on the robotics team because it's not interesting to some people. So, but I think including them on projects is probably the first start to getting them to this point in what we were doing, spending the extra time. And there was 1 or 2 freshmen that were like that, but I definitely think those 1 or 2 freshmen could be so much more 3 years from now because they were included in projects and they did have the opportunities. And sometimes it's just availability. Like, I know that some freshmen wanted to come in, but they just couldn't get there. Like, they needed a ride or something. So, I think that's definitely where I want to go with that. I think that's probably the best way to go with that, is just inclusion on projects. Maybe the other problem is that some freshmen I noticed weren't motivated to do a project because they just had no idea what to do because they didn't have a ton of knowledge about it. So knowing that, just kind of sharing the knowledge and sharing what you know is the way to go. Mom.
So kind of bouncing off what Mr. Chaddick just said, are you sure it was necessarily motivation so much as maybe fear or a little bit of uncomfortable? Because you and Calvin and Alexei are upperclassmen, whereas they have, like you just said,
they have no idea what to do.
They have no idea.
I think
so
that's
would you
definitely
think
part of
that maybe just reaching out instead of asking them, basically
reaching
kind
out,
of just pulling them in?
I definitely, that's kind of that's what I was trying to say. It's just reaching out. Guidance is the big thing, is that they don't have a lot of guidance right now because they're kind of like, they're little fish in a big pond. They're, this is something that's still fairly new, but we kind of sort of know what we're doing this year, and we kind of sort of know where we're going with all of this year. So I really liked how we structured our team this year with, having a mechanical team and an electrical team and a web and marketing team, and that worked really well, and I think we should keep doing that. But the one thing I would change is the kind of just meshing of the team, like actually sitting down and having meetings with everybody. Probably next year, especially during the build season, would probably help a lot. Because I kind of felt cut off from the marketing web team. I kind of want to know what they were doing anyways and see if I could give them any guidance on what we're doing. And with the freshmen, I think next season it'd probably be a good idea to sit down and have a team meeting once a week, just so that there is some inclusion and there is some guidance there. And that'll be a start to getting the younger kids more involved, so. Emily.
What about robotics makes you so passionate about?
Oh man, there are quite a few things about robotics that make me passionate. Sometimes I think I'm a girl hanging out with a bunch of guys, and that's something that in itself makes me passionate, because you don't think of robotics and it's a girl's world. It's just not that way. There aren't a lot of girls on the team. It's just not the way it is. And that alone makes me passionate that I can do that with a bunch of guys. That's definitely something that brings a lot of passion to me. But also what makes me passionate about it is that it's not just about building a robot, it's about making alliances and becoming friends with people that you never thought you'd be friends with. You know, I never thought I'd, talk to the freshmen on a regular basis and know who they are and know their names. And with robotics, I can go up to a lot of those kids and say, hey Michael, how you doing? Hey Al, how you doing? Because they're on that team. And it's a lot of cross grade level integration, and I think we have a pretty decent sense of community in there. So, don't know.
What made you want to get involved in robotics?
That's a funny story. I actually didn't want to do robotics. To be pretty frank, I remember at the beginning of last year when robotics came up during a forum and they were asking if anybody wanted to be involved. I was like, nope, not doing it, not my bag, I'm not going to do it. And I didn't do it for the through pretty much all of January of 2012, towards the end of January 2012, and then Mr. Chaddick over here asked me for some input in what he wanted for our shooter for last year and asked me to come up with some ideas. And I came up with some ideas, and I really liked that idea, thought process, and what I was doing. And that's where, that's where it kind of all began. I started to go to the wellness. I got more involved. I learned how to use power tools.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
I was really excited about learning how to use power tools. I'm like, cool, I can use a drill. And I can, I got to use the angle grinder, and I was ecstatic about it. And I signed up for the wellness, and I just kind of went with the flow. And at the competition, I emerged to the top, and I was like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. I'm going to try and lead this, and I'm going to be on drive team and be the safety person, and I'm just going to go with it. And I went with it, and it was probably the most rewarding experience I've ever had at school. So that's the story of me joining robotics. So yeah. Any more questions about robotics before I move on? Good? Good?
I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you planning on using robotics in a future career?
I thought about it. My plan is to start at SFCC and then move on to Eastern. And if not a ton of people know that Eastern has a phenomenal engineering program. We got to go out this year. I didn't go to kickoff last year because I didn't join the team in time to go to kickoff last year, and I got to go this year. And I saw the robotics lab, and it was pretty dang cool. And their engineering stuff, I was pretty impressed. So it's definitely a possibility. With my career, my options right now, I really want to go into, right off the bat, is get my chemical dependency license and become a chemical dependency specialist, and then go into either social work or psychology. This is the biggest thing that I really want to go into right now, but it's definitely on my radar because that's something that I'm very passionate about, and I think I need to explore more in college to decide where I want to go with that. So I don't have a lot of patience is the other thing, so I don't enjoy sitting down and drawing things out. I just kind of want to do it, and that's kind of a problem with robotics, is that you have to be able to sit down and draw things out, and you have to be able to sit down and blueprint things and have the patience to do that. So that's where I want to go with that, though. It's definitely on my radar. So, all right, advisory. This is the day-to-day stuff that we do. You can't really read it very well. It's supposed to be bigger than that, but this is an example up here of my daily schedule. I've changed it a little bit from last year. I had a huge problem at the beginning of last year of not writing anything down. I wouldn't do a plan for the day. I wouldn't do my weekly goals. I just wouldn't do it. And then my advisor last year was kind of pounding in my head that was really important to do and make sure you get it done because it's really important. It's a skill you need to have. And it was pounding in my head, and now look where I'm at. Look at what I'm doing. And I have my Friday reflections that are all in my binder. That I do every week, and I was kind of weirded out when I got into my